Put a pin in it, put a pin in it. You know we gotta get going so we can finish it. Put a pin in it, put a pin in it. You know we can never lose, we gon' win in it. Put a pin in it, put a pin in it. You know we gotta get going so we can finish it. Put a pin in it, put a pin in it. You know we can never lose, we gon' win in it. Put a pin in it, put a pin in it.
I'm over here cutting up and my mic is muted. Did you like that? Eh, 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 eh. We're gonna play it one more time. Yeah, we'll play it one more time.
Put a pin in it, put a pin in it. You know we gotta get going so we can finish it. Put a pin in it, put a pin in it. You know we can never lose, we gon' win in it. Put a pin in it, put a pin in it. You know we gotta get going so we can finish it. Put a pin in it, put a pin in it. You know we can never lose, we gon' win in it. Put a pin in it, put a pin in it.
Hold on. Am I starting to get stuck right at the beginning? I'm getting stuck, y'all. Lord. So we've already started to get stuck. So hold on for 1 second. That means I gotta leave and I gotta come back. So don't go nowhere. I will be right back. Okay. I'm glad this happened right now and not in the beginning while we're talking to Naomi. So hold one. Sorry. This happens when I go live and I got a lot going on. So this is what I need to say. I need another computer. Because every time I come live and I know I'm going to have a bomb show, I always freeze up. Okay. So I don't even know if I should even go into what I was going to go through with the Braxtons, because it happens when I pull a lot of what do you call it, video and stuff like that. It happens when I do that. So I don't even know if I want to go into all of that tonight. Maybe I'll just come live again after I get me another computer, because I know that we need to go ahead and have this conversation. And I'm going to skip what I was going to talk about with the Braxtons. I'm going to come live again talking about the Braxtons, and I'm going to come live again talking about Jordan Childs. I could say this little piece about Jordan Childs. If you was watching the Olympics, um Jordan Childs, let me pull her up so I can see what she looked like. Jordan Childs, I'm sorry, I done brought the guest on. My bad. Jordan Childs, she won bronze for her floor exercise. During this time, the other team, they appealed it. They appealed and said, I'm gonna read what it said. It says Jordan Child's bronze medal may be officially lost for good after the Court of Arbitration for Sport would not consider overturning its ruling despite new evidence from USA Gymnastics. USA Gymnastics said it possessed video evidence that Coach Cecile Landy's inquiry request into Child's floor exercises score at the Paris Olympics came within the 1 minute cutoff time, but that did not sway the CAS to re-examine its previous ruling to return the medal to Romania's Anna Barbosa. Okay. USA Gymnastics was notified by the Court of Arbitration for Sport on Monday that their rules do not allow for an arbitral award to be reconsidered, even when conclusive new evidence is presented. Listen, what that sound like? Our court of law? It sounds like a mess. And you mean to tell me I got evidence, proof showing that what I did was correct, but because y'all don't want to go back and say that y'all were wrong, y'all gonna take my medal from me? And I was joking online, but really, that has to hurt. I said they would have to find that medal before I give it back, because she did an amazing job. It is. They messed up. It was nobody but them. And so Jordan Childs, she said she was coming off of social media and all these things because it just was too much to bear. And we're gonna be praying for her, because that is crazy. You did all that work, and then somebody was saying, why don't you give both of them the bronze medal? I get that, but now it's like, do I even really want the medal? Do I even want to compete? So now you got, because Simone Biles is not coming back. She's like 100 years in gymnastics. She's 27, but by the time the next one roll around, she's gonna be 30-something years old. That's a lot of work for a 30-something year old woman. Okay, the stuff that she's doing. Dara said that's so frustrating and unfair. It is. Okay, so I just wanted to let y'all know that it's not going to get overturned, and Jordan Childs has to give up her medal, and that's unfortunate. I wanted to talk about the Braxtons, because I'm just gonna say a little bit about it. The Braxton Family Values re-aired last Thursday at 9:30 p.m. on Thursday. That's when they come on. I have been a faithful watcher of the Braxton Family Values. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna show you. This is who I'm talking about right here. So as you can see, one of their sisters is not here. Tracy passed not too long ago, and she had esophageal cancer. And That thing hurt me because I followed the Braxton family values from season one, episode one, all the way until they stopped. Um, but what I saw last week, I didn't like what I saw. And I don't know if it's because they're still grieving. Can y'all hear me? It doesn't show that I'm stuck or nothing. So I think I'm still here. So these people are still mourning, and I find it not, something I find it not ironic. I don't like using that word, but I find it very fitting for us to have this conversation with my guest tonight, Naomi Brown. She is a licensed funeral director. All right, so we're gonna bring her to the stage. Everybody, give her a hand.
Hey, everybody.
So before we had some trials and tribulations before we started, but we're here. I just need a new computer. That's all. I just need to break down.
Me too. So I do.
This one is full to capacity. But Naomi, thank you for joining us tonight.
Of course.
I have a lot of questions
Okay.
because me myself, I am I am still grieving, but I'm not in the like grieving stages to where not every day
Yeah.
now, but I do have those times where it's crippling.
Hmm.
But I feel like the Braxtons, they show that they have not really, did any work
Yeah.
because they even said that they're not even closer. They said it several times last week. And I was like, what? Now you lost your sister. You're not closer. They even made like it was a joke, and I didn't take it. See, those that are number one fans,
Hmm.
like when they said, "Oh, Tracy's holding our purse," we were like, "What you mean she's holding your purse?"
Right. Right.
So it's a lot of eyes gonna be on them to see how they are handling
Mhm.
because we already knew that they had like they were siblings, they bicker and
Right.
stuff like that. But we know that's not all to them, but that's what they showed, and so it's just a lot. But anyway, let me get off that. Um, I am so glad that you decided to come on, and when you come to put a pin in it, I have a way of just letting my guests be who they are,
Okay.
and we just learn who you are and then just go from there. So with that being said, please tell everybody who you are.
Okay.
Okay.
My name.
and
Oh, I'm sorry.
and where you're from,
Okay.
and how did you get in this profession?
All right. My name is Naomi Brown. I am originally from Conway, Arkansas, not South Carolina, but Arkansas. I reside in North Little Rock. Um, I am a mother of one. She is 20 years old, Jemiah, and I have one sibling, Jasmine. No brothers. Both parents are still living, and I have four beautiful nieces. So that is me
Oh.
in a nutshell.
Oh, wow. So what inspired you to pursue a career in the funeral industry?
I had to think about that because when I look back over my life, there's been so many small steps on my journey that has gotten me to this point. Um, I mean, far back as being a little girl, I remember, talking with my dad about it. It was something that I was intrigued. And one of my first memories and the consciousness of knowing that I am a person was at a funeral, and which it was a funeral of my cousin. He
Mm.
unfortunately was killed by someone, and I just what sticks out in my mind. I remember his brother did not take it very well, and he fainted like 3 times. But that was just something that burned in my spirit. I was like, I want to be able to help people who are going through that. So that was like one of the first instances.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got older, I don't know if you remember, there was a show called 6 Feet Under that I think it originally aired on HBO. Now,
I wouldn't have watched it because I let me we're gonna talk about that after you finish.
okay. Well, some people didn't watch it, so I used to watch it. That, and I was kind of inspired by that show. In middle school, I had a classmate. His name was Todd Green, and in my hometown, there's a funeral home, and his dad was the head embalmer there. And
Mhm.
when I found out that they had living quarters at the actual funeral home, I was just so intrigued. I think I probably got on his nerves. I asked him questions every day about what it was like to
Wow.
live in a funeral home. So he gave me a lot of insight on that. And I guess I just always put that in the back of my head. And then as I became a teenager and in high school, my junior and senior year, I worked as a CNA, hey Sarah,
Mhm.
at a nursing home. And so God has an amazing and a very funny sense of humor. My
Mhm.
very first day, I had a resident that was transitioning. And so, of course, me being the newbie, they like, you go in there, and in a nursing home, I don't know how it is now, but back then, you could not leave a deceased person by themselves. You had to stay
Mhm.
with them. And, I had learned in my classes at school, they still have sometimes delayed breathing. And a lot of people think that it's just a reflex basically, but
Mhm.
sometimes it is delayed. So when I was sitting in there, it happened, but thankfully because I was in class and I knew about it, I was prepared, so it didn't scare me.
Maybe.
So eventually, I became the person that anytime we had a resident that passed, even if I was working on a different hall, they would
Mhm.
call me. It's
Mhm.
like, we can't do it, but I always took pride in my routine. Once
Mhm.
they died, I would change the bed sheets, give them a bed bath, make sure their hair was combed, lotion on their face in case the family members wanted to see them before they went to the funeral home,
Mhm.
or and when the funeral home come to pick them up, I will always help them get them on the gurney and stuff like that. So that was part of that, and then I kind of got away from it.
Mhm.
Um, life happens, had a child, things of that nature, and so fast forward to 2016. That year was extremely hard. I
Mhm.
lost about 9 family members on both sides, between both sides of my family. And also during that time, I was going back and forth to the doctor with my baby with concerns about her kidney. So that year
Mhm.
was just extremely tough. It started with my uncle in February. And then about 29 days later, I lost my only grandparent, which was his mother. So that year, and by the time I made it to September, October, I was like, look, God, I don't know what this is, but
Right.
this is getting to be a little bit too much. And he kept telling me, I'm preparing you for something.
Mhm.
And so I didn't go immediately, but then around 2018, I kept getting this feeling like I needed to start my career. So I called my best friend, which I'm in the same position as you. I'm not. He did transition in 2013. I mean
Mhm.
2023. I'm sorry. So I'm in that stage that you are. Every day is not a bad day, but I do have some days that I just
Right.
want to deal. But I called him and I'm like, Myron, I keep having this unction that I need to start my career in funeral service. And at that time, I was almost 40. And I'm like, a 40-year-old about to start another career, because I have been on my job that I'm currently on at that point about 15 years.
Mm.
And I was like, that is crazy. And he was like, girl, you already know, the voice of the Lord. If he's telling you to do this, it's a reason why. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, when I look back over everything that I've been through in my life, and I can see that I can handle it. And I was like, maybe it's time for me to take my experiences and, use that to help someone else. So
Mm.
here I am. So in 2018, in February is when I started my apprenticeship. I worked a couple of different funeral homes to get my cases in. Got my cases in, which we have to have 50 in order to start the apprenticeship. Hey, mom. And then I worked and I studied an entire year. I took a whole
Mm.
year because, when it comes to laws, shall and will, you have to know the difference. You have to know those laws. So I didn't rush it. I took my time and I studied a complete year. And then I
Mm-hmm.
took my test. And the first try, I passed and became a licensed funeral director. Yeah.
Wow. So can you define for us what does that mean? Like, are you in charge of the whole funeral home, or are you in charge of what are you in charge of?
Well, it's twofold. I am
Okay.
currently, along with my career with my first job, which I have about 18 years in with that, trying to get to 20 so I can go back to school. But I am a what we call a general manager of a funeral home. So
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much all the responsibility falls on me. I do have what we call apprentices or
Mm-hmm.
attendants that are under me that help as well. And then also with me being licensed, if there's a funeral home in the state of Arkansas that needs help, they don't have a licensed funeral director because you have to have a licensed funeral director on every service. And
Mm.
sometimes just with life, sometimes they don't have it. So if they call and say they need help, I'll help them.
Oh
So
wow. But you
mhm.
don't help them for free though.
No.
I'm just, I'm
No.
just, I'm just trying to let people know that listen, let me tell
There's
you
a
something.
small
There
fee
is
with that. Yes.
money
Yes.
in
Hey Tim.
being a licensed funeral director. All
Yes.
right, so I got a question.
Okay.
Can you share some of the most common misconceptions people have about funeral directors and the industry?
Yes, number one, we are not weird. We are regular people.
Okay.
It is a job that has to be done. Somebody has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say there's a special type of person that does this. Um, Misconceptions, just like preachers, you have that misconception that funeral directors are just out to get your money. That's not necessary. That's not true. Well, and you
Mm-hmm.
have some bad apples, but overall, you are in control of the funeral arrangements. You're in control of how much you spend.
Mm-hmm.
That ball is in your court. So
Okay.
just always remember that. Um, the bodies, after they die, you may get a little gas that escapes and it may make a noise. But as far as bodies sitting up, we get that question all the time. Do the bodies sit up? No, they don't. Once you on that table and they raise that artery in that vein, it's over. You're not moving. So those are misconceptions.
Watch too many scary movies.
Yes, and I
I
think
did
that
think that.
yeah, and I think too, in our community, there's a lot of fear around it, uh, and it a lot of things I always go back to slavery, and I think a lot of our trauma is seeing our loved ones in trees. Let's just be
Mm.
honest, and I think they just kind of passed down generationally as far as fear. But I can tell you, the dead people is not who you should be afraid of.
My
It's
mama
the
used to say
ones
that
that's
all the
living and
time.
breathing
The ones that's
and
live.
walking around. Yeah, because
Listen,
they
She
not
she
harm
used to. My mom used to have to give me that speech before every funeral she
you.
made me go to.
Hmm.
She had to make me go to funerals because I would be so
Yeah,
scared. Like,
yes.
Mama, I don't want to go. I don't want to. She's like, Lisa, why are you acting like that? I'm just, and she said, you should be watching all the movies, them scary movies your daddy
Mhm.
showed you, all this kind of stuff like that. And then she always said, you're acting like that now. How are you gonna act when I die? I said, I don't know. I said, I'm gonna sit in the back. She said, no, you're not.
Mm-mm.
And when I say that she was absolutely correct on that, I was not afraid.
Yes.
At
And
my mama's funeral, it was such a peace. It felt like she was there hugging me the whole
hmm
time.
hmm
And
I love.
so after her funeral, I was able to go to any, but before that, oh, I was
Hmm.
scared. I was scared of everything.
Yeah.
I was scared that it was gonna sit up. I was scared that it was gonna fall out the casket.
Hmm. Hmm.
It just was a lot was
Yeah.
going through my mind, like, oh my God. And I had a cousin that used to embalm, and he married into our family. And so he would scare me at times too.
Hmm.
with like acting like, he was, whatever, like he was in the
Okay.
casket or something like that. But he had the softest skin. Like his hands felt like clouds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do you feel like this? And he said it's because the stuff that he worked around. I don't know how true that is, but that's what he said.
Well, probably that, and he probably washed his hands a lot. So with doing that, you have to moisturize. So that could have been part of it, too. There is a certain cream that we do put on their face after they've been embalmed to keep the moisture in. So it could have
Mm,
been a combination of both, and it could have been just him messing with you as well. So
it was him messing with me
yeah,
because he would
but
try to
yeah,
tell me about the process. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. But I heard somebody say they wanted to. Do you embalm as well?
I don't embalm right now, but I have assisted on embalmings, and I will assist if the embalmer needs help. But I don't. That's what I want to go back to school for once I get my 20 years in. Yeah.
Do the body change when you do that?
Yes, because you have to think about when you're alive, your heart is pumping and you have blood flowing. At the
Mm,
moment of death, you no longer have that. So there are some changes as far as appearance, the skin's appearance. So if you have a good embalmer, they know the balance of the chemicals needed to use to get that natural look back into the skin. And
mm.
then if you have a good embalmer, the cosmetizing part is easy. If they can get a natural look back in the skin, it makes it easier for us to dress the bodies.
I need to find out who embalmed my grandma.
Mm.
They did a horrible job.
There are some that,
To the
unfortunately,
point where all of us, not just me, the whole
mhm,
family was like, who is that in that casket? That
mhm.
is not Grandma B. So, but the person that did my mama did an amazing job.
And
She
see,
looked
I
like
always
she
tell
was asleep.
people, yeah, and I always tell people when that happens, because one of the people, we say it all the time, we say it in jest, we laugh about it, but when a person says, "Oh, they look like they're sleeping," that is like the highest compliment you could ever give to an embalmer or a funeral director because the work is put in, and I can't speak for everybody, but I know as far as if I got to spend 3 hours, whatever it takes to make sure that when you view your loved one, you're not looking at a horror story. Because I've
Right.
seen some horror stories and I'm like, there is absolutely no way I would have put them out looking like that. Or I would have set the family's expectations like, hey, the body decomposed. There was something wrong.
Wow.
We couldn't get the feature, together. I suggest a closed casket. So and just there, I really hate that happened because that leaves a lasting memory in your brain when they do not look good, and
Part of
you
grief.
always have that thing is like that was not my loved one in that casket, and it's such a horrible feeling to leave a family feeling like that.
When I
Yeah.
tell you I looked up and down, I said I looked from the top of my grandma head to her hands.
Hmm.
I was like, did they just like switch bodies or something? Because this does
Yeah.
not look like her at all. And so, can you get your money back if you're not satisfied?
Well, it depends on the state. There are some recourse, but I would say because most funerals, when you like say for instance, if you have a funeral on a Saturday, they bring you in on Friday afternoon to do the initial viewing. Make some noise. If it's something that you don't like, say something right then and make
Mm,
them fix it. And most times they will fix it, and then, like I said, it goes back to setting the expectation. That
mm,
falls on the funeral director. If you know that there is absolutely nothing you can do, you need to be upfront and tell the family that
mm,
and set their expectation and allow them to choose, say, well, we can either have it open just for family, or we can completely close it and nobody views after our initial viewing. So
wow.
it's really up to the family to kind of hold the funeral director's feet to the fire. But I would just encourage any funeral directors that may be listening, just always set the family's expectation. Yeah.
So no, you can't get your money back.
No.
All right. So you said all that to say no refund.
You
so so there are different types of insurances. So what do
Mhm.
you suggest for families that just don't know? Because I've heard that there are people going to expectations thinking that the insurance is the end all in all. Can you just enlighten us on that?
I'm glad you asked because I did have some notes here. You
Mm-hmm.
have term, you have whole life, and you have burial insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Term usually is for a specific amount of time. They don't go forever. So you just have to know what type of policy you're getting. Whole life is just that, it's the whole life. With term, those premiums are usually lower. And it's for people who, they have younger, it's for younger individuals basically.
Mm-hmm.
So if you would put a term on your daughters,
Mm-hmm.
basically, just in case something happens, God forbid something happens to them. Whole life, it has a higher premium. It does build cash value, so sometimes people get in a financial bind they may have to borrow against. But if you do that, you
Mm-hmm.
need to let your beneficiary know so they can, because they'll come in and say, "Well, I have a $30,000 whole life policy." We go to check it to pay, and they got a $29,000 funeral that they just planned, and we go to
Mm-hmm.
check it and find out that they borrowed $10,000 off of it. So you have to be abreast of those things. And then too, if those are not affordable, I would suggest burial. And
Okay.
burial usually about $20,000, maybe more, but those are usually just to cover the funeral expenses and also the cemetery.
Okay.
So those are your options with those. Um, let's see. Also, with that, make sure your policies are in a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest maybe a fire safe box. Let your beneficiaries know that they are on the policy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll talk about that too, Tamara. And you may, well, of course, we're in the age of technology. You can email them just where they can have it just in a safe place in case something
Right.
does happen. They can get to it very quickly.
Okay. And like Tamara said, you see people leaning more towards cremation now instead of just the
More
traditional
so in
burial?
our community that, of course, other communities, non-black communities, that's kind
Ben.
of has always been an option for them. For
Mm-hmm.
us, we are leaning more towards that because some cemeteries can be expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and aside from paying for the funeral, you are also paying for the opening and closing of the grave, and sometimes they can get very expensive. So we lean more towards, now we're gonna have a service.
What's the
Somebody,
most expensive burial? Because I'm paying how much to dig her hole?
it just depends on the cemetery. It depends if Um, I've seen them as high as 20,000. It just, yeah, I've
What
seen
kind
some,
of cemetery is that?
like you have those, like where some of the celebrities and things of that nature are. They only want a certain type of clientele, so they put that price there. So yeah, it can be very
Oh,
expensive.
twenty
I've seen,
thousand dollars.
yeah, we've counseled families that the burial was going to be more than the funeral. We was like, do you really want to do that? So yeah, it can be. It can be very expensive. So yeah.
And this is going in the ground. It's not being above ground.
Mausoleums. That's another added expense. I've seen the one mausoleum that I have buried a person in. It was about $20,000,
Mm.
and it was a above ground mausoleum. Nothing too fancy, just engraved with their name and
No
just
glass, no nothing. Just
so
above the ground.
yeah. So it can get very expensive.
Okay, well, tell us about this cremation because it's sounding more.
Well, you have two types of cremations. You have direct cremation. That's usually they choose that if they don't want a service at all. It would just take them directly to the crematory, have them cremated, and they may have a memorial service later. And then you have where we have a service and then a cremation after service. So
Mm.
those direct cremations, they can run, just depends on the funeral home, anywhere between 600 to maybe 1,500, just depending on the funeral home.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're just paying. So direct, that means from the hospital to the,
Straight to the crematory.
and that's 600 to whatever. But if you have a service, it's how much?
Um, Low end about 35 to 6,500, just depending on where you have the service. If you have it at the funeral home's chapel or at a church or whatever, it just depends on what you add to that particular service.
I want to be dressed up for the last time,
Oh yes.
but I think that I want to be cremated because I can't see myself paying that much money to go in the ground.
Yeah.
I
And
just can't. I can't see
yeah.
myself doing that.
And I mean, it's an expense, but it just all depends, and that's where it comes in to whatever your wishes are. Put it
Mm,
down on paper, write it down.
okay,
You know,
put it on paper.
put it on paper. And I was going to just to go back to the insurance thing too. I would suggest if you have children, grandchildren, and you have a lot of assets,
Mm,
take your kids off of your insurance policies as beneficiaries. Go and get legal counsel and create an
mm-hmm,
irrevocable trust.
mm.
Put the irrevocable trust as your beneficiary.
I hope y'all. I hope y'all writing this down.
That way your kids can have access to the money immediately. If it's not an
Immediately.
irrevocable trust, sometimes it can go to probate and that can prolong the process. Probate courts, they drag their feet. So that's just a little tidbit. If you have a lot of assets, make sure that you create a irrevocable trust. You seek legal counsel to do it. And just know that whatever you put in that trust and it's irrevocable, there's once it's done, it's done. There's no changing it.
Mm,
So you have to be very concrete of what you want, be solid in it, and make sure the people that you have over it, you trust them.
wow. Okay. I hope y'all listening. So I got a question for you now.
Okay.
Um, what challenges have you faced as a female funeral director? Because traditionally, it's a male dominated field,
Mhm.
correct?
It is.
So so what challenges have you faced?
Men do not like to take directions from women very well. And it's sometimes, when you get in a situation where you have to kind of flex your muscle, it becomes, oh, we don't want to fool her because she the angry black woman or whatever the case
Mm,
may be. So it's kind of the same thing that women have faced in church. And with preachers, a woman should be silent and, seen and not heard.
mm-hmm,
But a lot of times, in my particular situation, I will say that I work with a good group of men. Most
mm-hmm.
of my issues have been with preachers. And it's like, sir, I'm not telling you anything or just to be telling you. What I'm going by is the state laws.
Right,
And
right.
if something happens, they're not coming after you. If something goes wrong in this service, they're not coming after you. That's my license that's on the line. So I'm
Mm-hmm,
going to do whatever, in line with the state laws. And if that is over what your policy is, well, I'm sorry.
right.
Because at this point, the law trumps your policy. So that has been a real challenge. But I will say, I get so excited to see women that come in the industry. I have so
Mm-hmm.
many people that I watch from afar, women that have opened up their own funeral homes. They are the boss. I
Oh
love it.
wow.
So, it's very inspiring that the tide is kind of changing than
Mm-hmm.
what it was back in the day. Most of the times when you saw a woman working a funeral, she was just picking up the flowers. You
Right.
know,
Or handing out tissue.
tissue exactly. So, and then, and I still have that nurturing side. If somebody
Uh-huh.
gets emotional, I'm there. I've held babies while standing at the casket. I've done it all. So it's still that part of me. But sometimes I do have to get in that masculine energy and take control and be like, no, this is the way it's going to go, and that's it.
Right.
You know.
So
So
what is I want to know what is the most interesting funeral you've been to
the most
that
interesting.
you had to be in charge of? Like, now they have these funerals where people is sitting in cars and stuff like that. Have I should say what's the most outrageous thing somebody's
Outrage.
asked you to do?
We haven't had really one that was super super outrageous. I think
Mm-hmm.
um one I remember we had a farmer and he declared a parcel of his land as a family cemetery. So basically, we buried him in his backyard. So
Mm.
that was very interesting. But we haven't had any like super extreme. Most of the people, of course, in Arkansas, Bible Belt, they
Oh,
want
that's
good
right. You in
old,
Arkansas. That's right.
they want a good old traditional
Cause in
church.
Florida, honey, I know they do the
Yes,
most.
I love. There's a funeral home, a Good Shepherd. Shout out to them, Myers. I love watching them and do the extreme because, especially when you have a younger person, it's just all about the presentation. I love
Hmm.
when funeral directors can come out of the traditional black, put on some, colors that match whatever the colors are in the funeral. I love seeing that. So, and I've been lately obsessed with Ghanaian funerals in Ghana, the way because they are over the top,
Over the top.
over the top. And I was like, and that's how you should. A funeral should be a true celebration of that person's life. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
I guess if
How
you
they
look at it
live.
like that, yeah. I guess
Yeah.
if you look at it like that, I just got to get past the fear part. I'm past that now, but I'm just saying before that's what I would have had to
Mhm.
get out of. So I'll say, so I got a question. This is off the wall. Now
Okay.
the person that is standing in front of the casket and they walking like they really like gliding on the floor. What are they
Oh, they
doing?
do the high step.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just just another ceremonial type way.
Oh, so it's a ceremony.
A kind of sort of just the final dance, so to speak. Um, I shout out to Chance Tucker. He is one of my coworkers. He, baby, when I tell you he can walk that crown down, he can walk that crown down. Now, I've posted pictures of him, videos of him before, but he carries that crown, and it's a whole big thing to that final honor for, especially if you have a like we did a mother. She was 98 years old, the oldest mother of her church. So it was a big thing. And then at the end, we had kind of coached the pallbearers, her grandsons and great grandsons, of how to carry the casket on their shoulders. So it was
Hmm.
just a big thing just to honor their life.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, can you discuss the importance of pre-planning funeral arrangements and how you guide families through that process? Because I think some people just wait too late.
They wait entirely too late. And I'm going to say this because a
Hmm.
lot of people, and I meant to say this earlier, just look me in my face and understand you are going to die.
Hmm.
Breathe and let it go and you have to get over that part because a lot of us, we don't like discussing it, and we know grandma is 95 years old. She may outlive you, but you never know. So you have to get past the fear of just talking about it because it
Hmm.
has to be discussed. I know before my grandma, and it was a few years before she actually transitioned, my grandmother had my cousin come down, and uh, they went through the whole. She picked out everything she wanted, and paid for it, everything. So when that time came, it took the stress off of my mom and her siblings
Mm.
because they already knew what she wanted. They already knew what she was going to get. The only thing that they had to decide is what outfit they were going to put her in. Now she
Right.
had a closet full of clothes, but she had lost weight, so they wanted to get something that better fit her, and it was just easy. The boys left it up to the girls. They went and found something, and it was done. So I'll tell you, when you're in that grieving process, having to plan a funeral is already stressful enough. When you
Hmm.
don't have any direction or any clue of what to do, it just adds to the stress. And of course, that's what we're here for. But I would just say before you even do anything, discuss with your loved ones, have all of the vital information, social security cards,
Hmm.
numbers, your insurance policy, doctor info, hospital, whatever the case may be, have all of that in a safe place. Like I said, you can email it or whatever to your, uh, you have your next of kin and your person that has right of disposition. Now, sometimes they
Hmm.
could be the same person, sometimes it may not, but
Right.
the person that you trust, I would say pick the right funeral home. It's okay if you want to shop around. I
Right.
mean, um, kind of know what your budget is. Write down the national um, the national average of a funeral home is nine of a funeral service itself is $9,000. You know
Mm-hmm.
that you have your highs and you have your lows of that, but that's the average. So know the budget and stick to it. Don't feel like you're pressured into getting something that you do not want to get. Know the type of
Because
service.
you ain't getting your money back.
You know,
We already established
we
that in the
already
beginning.
established
If you listen, let me tell you, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna say what she can't say.
that.
If you come to the viewing with the family and you don't say nothing and you don't get stuff fixed, you ain't getting your money back.
Say
So
something. And if you know that you're one, because some people are just emotional and they just not going to be able to do it. In that case, bring somebody that can because at the end of the day, the arrangement is it's a business meeting. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So get someone that can articulate what you need and what you want if you cannot. But the overly opinionated and the people that don't have no money to leave them at home.
right,
You know
right,
what I'm saying? Because usually they tend to only make it worse.
right. And do
Because
that. Is there a fine print though when you sign? You're what happens when the person signed and you got the contract, but at the end of the day they don't have the money? What happens then?
well, you may or may not have a service. It's just what it is. You may not. We may
You're
have to
so
delay.
nice and professional.
We
I like
may
it.
have to we may have to delay, or we could come back to the table and figure out a payment
Y'all don't
plan.
got buy now, pay later.
Mm-mm. No, no. It's sort of like your doctor's office. Payment is due,
Affirm,
service is rendered.
afterpay. Jeez.
um, there may be some like financial people that give loans, but I personally would stay away from them because the interest rate is ridiculous. You know, on those, but desperate times call for desperate measures sometimes. But I would just suggest get insurance, even if it's just burial insurance, not a firm. Even if it's just burial insurance, get it. That way you don't put your family in a position where they have, and I'm not against GoFundMe's. They bring people together and I'm okay with that, but you don't want to have to do that every time you have to bury a loved one. You know what I'm saying? So I would suggest just having, if you can't afford, $100,000 or $200,000 policy, at least get enough to make sure that your service is covered.
Wow.
Yeah,
Whew. This is a lot,
it
Naomi. But
is.
but thank you so much for telling
No,
us because this is a lot.
yeah, and
Now,
I'm
have things changed since COVID? Because I saw Jessica ask why y'all don't stay for the repair. Y'all be gone. After
well,
after that, after that,
a
I've
lot of
noticed.
times if y'all give us
I've
hell, we out of
noticed
there.
after
Well,
the burial, y'all don't we after y'all drop us off at that repair, it's like scared. I'm
yeah.
like, where the
Listen,
car go?
they laugh at me so because they like, baby, you had a hearse on two wheels. And do, yes, I do. But no, I tried to stay when it's, well, I say this during COVID, some people they weren't doing the repairs, but we were so busy, we really couldn't stay. You know what I'm saying? We had more. Sometimes we had three services in a day, so we really couldn't stay. We've gotten back to it now that COVID is kind of, you know, it's not gone, but it's not as bad as it was. We will
Mm-hmm.
stay and in fellowship with the family. Especially um I work in Central Arkansas, but sometimes I work in like rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
And those people, they gonna feed you and they gonna make sure that you eat and you come back and fellowship with the family. And we have a good time with them. We laugh and we cackle with them afterwards. But it just really depends on the circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Cause y'all
And
be
I was gonna
gone.
say too with that prayer and doing all that stuff. To I want to just go back. Make sure you know what type of service you want, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
burial or cremation. Know if you want a full service celebration or just a memorial. And I would say too, I had a example of a obituary. I thought I did.
Oh yeah, the
Uh,
obituaries. How much they be costing? Cause y'all
Um,
got them good printers.
I have a well, we outsource it, so 100 run you about 275, depending on how many pages you want. But what people, this is the coveted document. People will fight you and get mad if they.
Yeah,
And I tell them, like, if you had got here on time, you probably
right.
would have had one. But what people don't realize too, that these are historical documents. This
Oh,
they tell your family history. Like, I literally had to guide my dad how to go back and look at his mom's obituary to even find out what his grandparents' name was or what her
mm,
maiden name was. So, because back in the day, women really didn't have their own identity. It was Mr. and Mrs. whatever the last name was. But we had to go back and do some research. But write it, especially if you're older and your grandkids and you have kids that are older. Write it out.
y'all remember that?
Write it
Write
out.
it out
Right
now.
now. That way we don't have to call so and so and so and so and find out this and that, because what also happens with doing the death certificate, it asks, because it cross references your death certificate with your birth certificate. So we have to know the person's mom's maiden name. You may know
Wow.
the married name, but we have to know the maiden name. We have to know the highest level of education, what type of job they have for most of their adult life. So it's so much information that we need. So, like I said, it's important to write all of this stuff down and keep it in a safe place. That way, if something happens, your family can get to it, because
I did not know that.
it's very important. So yeah, um, and also you can kind of know, you don't have to just be concrete on it, but kind of know where you want them to be buried. If there's a particular cemetery that your family, that's where they all are, that's fine. Just know the cost, because we can either include it in the cost of your total bill, or you can pay it separately. So it's just so many things that you should know, and write it down. Now, like I said, in the actual arrangement, leave unhelpful people alone. If you are emotional and you need somebody there, that's fine. That's fine. But you don't have to have 10 family members there to have a servant or but do the arrangements, because when you have 10 different people, you got 10 different opinions. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody, well, mama liked pink. No, she didn't. Mama liked purple. No, she didn't. Mama liked blue. So it's like, just have just those people that are just there to be solid supporters. And again, if you can't do it, that kind of help you through. But whatever you do, just write it down.
Write it down.
That way you can have it.
Because I know my kids don't know my family. So
Yeah.
I would have to write it down and leave it
Mhm.
somewhere safe for them to know what to put on the obituary.
And then too, like in my dad's situation, his daddy was a Rolling Stone.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? He was preaching. Like Reed said, preachers make the women horny. So he had like total, I want to say 23 kids
Jesus.
by different women. So when you have a situation like that, you need to know who all of your siblings are. Just to have that, like I said, the historical document, and also other reasons you don't want to mess around and be talking to your cousin or something of that. But there's just so much relief that it gives your family member when you have all of your stuff in order. And like I said, it's not, if you plan your funeral tonight, you're not gonna die tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not bringing that on you, but it's just you taking care of business.
Now see there, I'm glad you said that because I'm still not going to get no clothes from him. But there's a man that makes, you probably seen it. He makes these beautiful gowns for the
Yeah, the
deceased.
funeral mogul. I think
I
that's
said his stuff is so bad,
yeah.
but I wouldn't dare buy nothing from him. Cause I ain't trying to go nowhere. I feel like if I wear his clothes, I'm lessening my
Yeah.
life. I
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
to put that on. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I know I look
I ain't
good
putting
in
it
it.
on me now. Yeah.
I got
But
TS Couture. I'm good.
yeah, but I know exactly what you're talking about. But he does. He makes
He
some
got them
beautiful, beautiful
nice.
gowns. He really does. So I have to give him his kudos. And there's some people who make these very. Now I'm gonna tell you, I don't have any biases as far as funeral homes because I think we're the best. But when it comes to presentation, that doggone Willie Watkins, they know how to put on a funeral. And
You saying that like I follow funeral directors. I don't know who you talking about.
Willie Watkins is from Atlanta. He's made in Atlanta. Willie Watkins. Willie.
Honey. But you're this is great information. Very, very good. Somebody asked, why is it so costly to fly a body from one state to another?
There, because it's not considered, of course, a person. It's considered cargo.
What?
Yes, it's cargo because that's where they put the body. There's a type of shipping box that we put the body in. Of course, the body has to be embalmed before they cross the state lines. That's mandatory. Every state has that law. So that's what it is, and it just depends. Oh yeah, not Wonka Watkins, but yeah. So that's what that's where the cost comes in. And of course you have to think of the weight that it adds.
It's heavy.
Got
you.
And yeah, so that's.
Oh, when I said it's heavy, I got another question. Them oversized caskets.
The one that tipped over. Listen, you have oversized, and when people think oversized, it's not necessarily because they're obese. Sometimes oversized mean they could be super tall, or they could just be super broad shoulder.
Thank you for correcting me.
They could be super broad shoulder, but if you ever hear of anybody having to go in a mammoth casket,
mammoth.
In a mammoth, yeah, they was probably a little thick. Yeah. And I was like, or a Hercules. A mammoth or a Hercules.
Why would they?
And I'm glad you brought the thing up because, grief kind of took a toll on me. I'm a little chunkier than I want to be. But I was going to tell you, if you can, please lose weight. Because the idea or the saying dead weight, it's quadruple when you're overweight, so it's a lot to deal with. And sometimes you don't want to have your loved one pulling, and we got to pull them up in a U-Haul because they won't fit in the back of the hearse. A mammoth, yeah. And I was like, out of all the names, y'all could choose better names for these caskets. So we just say oversized.
You know how big a mammoth is?
Oh yeah. I've seen them. I've seen someone in one. So yes, I know exactly how big they are.
How do you get them in there?
You can't take a regular hearse. You're talking about inside the casket? Normally,
yes.
Most funeral homes have lifts. You're not lifting the body up by, especially that size. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, I am not insensitive.
But
that mammoth caught me off guard.
And I was like, why would a casket company name a casket? That is so crazy. But yeah, the mammoth or Hercules. That lets you know they
said not a lift.
Yes, because personally, I mean, I have, but if they're smaller, you can kind of scoop them up and put them in. But if they are bigger, I'm not breaking my back to put them in. We're going to use a lift and we're going to lift them in and we're going to gently lay them down. So, and usually the lifts helps you get the best position because you don't want them, leaned off or, tilted in the casket. So a lift really save backs because if you ever talk to a funeral director, a lot of them have back issues from picking bodies up and having to put them in there. So but yeah, you're gonna have to have a lift. And unfortunately sometimes a U-Haul van.
We gotta change the subject because I'm tickled.
So kill church fat. And I'm talking to myself when
she said kill church. A mammoth. Oh God, I am stuck.
But
and then Tamara don't make it no better. She talking about now I have Ice Age on my mind.
Yeah, and that's kind of yeah. It's they big, baby. Ooh. But and then the thing too, I was gonna say with that, you have to those are specially ordered. The only one that I know of, it could be other companies, but I think the one that we use is in Indiana. So you have to give them time to be able to ship it as well. So,
Oh
but yeah.
God. Everything you said is making me laugh right now. You said they specially ordered. It's gonna
Yes.
add time.
Yeah. That's
Y'all
especially.
just lose weight. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, that's
Don't do
no,
that.
seriously, because it could be a headache, and then sometimes they choose because of the cost of it. They say, okay, well we'll go the cremation route. Well, some crematories they have a wait. They'll tell you we're that's too big for us.
You
We're not.
can be too big to get cremated.
Yeah, some they don't want you messing up their retort machine. So and it's unfortunate, but sometimes it happens. But you have those that will do it, but they'll tell you that's the last case we'll do because I mean that's what yeah.
Okay, stop, Lisa.
Okay.
Stop it.
Okay.
Everything you said is making me tickle.
It
Oh,
is it
what are
is
these
yeah.
kind of things?
Yeah. But I think people don't realize, some of the stuff that we go through behind the scenes, to make it happen. But we'll do whatever is within our power to make it happen for you. But yeah.
So, so how do you break that to the family? Like,
Most of the family, they know. They know. They know. You know what I'm saying? They knew they don't want to deal with Willie Mae. They knew Willie Mae was too big in the beginning. They told her to lose weight, she wouldn't do it. So they usually know, but no, you really just have, like I said, you have to have that compassion because we're tickled now, but really it comes down to compassion and how you just approach the situation. But like I said, you're not telling them anything that they don't know. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because if they're going to have a service, there's more fluids, embalming fluids. There's more time, so there's a lot. So you have to charge a little bit more, unfortunately. So yeah. Yeah, but it just comes down to having compassion and just like I said, it goes back to setting the family's expectations. It really. I didn't mean to get you tickled, but I'm
you
just sharing a little
going,
knowledge.
you just going on with life, and I'm over here trying to get
You
myself
trying to get yourself back
together.
together.
Okay, okay, Jesus Lamb.
And them.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord have mercy, because I
Yeah.
had all these type visuals while you was talking. I had to, Lord have mercy, the lift and then put them. Oh God,
Mhm.
it's a lot. Okay, so how do you maintain your emotional well-being while supporting families through their grief?
That is a great question.
I know.
Um, I am a jokester. I laugh a lot, and I try to do things that just bring me joy. But I will tell you, um, when my best friend transitioned, that was super hard because it
Mhm.
was unexpected. I mean, it was just that's that person that he knew everything about me. I knew everything about him. He was my safe place. When
Mhm.
I'm about to go left, that was the person I called because I knew he could be the one to talk me over off the ledge. And
Mhm.
when you lose somebody like that is so valuable to your life, it is jarring.
Mhm.
And I will say that the first year was super super rough, and I have to compartmentalize basically. This is me over here, but when I'm working, I leave all of that at home and I deal with what I deal with at home. But when I'm working, I'm focused on
Mhm.
serving this family. But at times it proved to be hard because I could be sitting and the choir would be singing and I would think of him because we were church kids.
Mhm.
That was us. And our song will remind me of him and it would, it'd be hard. So sometimes I would have to step out.
Mhm.
But I most of the time when I'm done at the funeral home, I leave the funeral home at the funeral home. When
Mhm.
I'm home, I'm just me. I don't bring that home with me. But the last couple of years has been hard to kind of balance that. And then two,
Mhm.
one of my worst cases, um, it was late June of 2020. Of course, we were dead in the pandemic,
Right.
and my cousin, she had passed, Shinda. Hey, Shinda. And when we went to pick her up, she had actually been dead several days. It
Mm.
was in the dead of summer. It was hot, and she was pretty unrecognizable. So that was, with that being my cousin and the worst case that I've ever had to do a removal on, that kind of took me aback, a little
Mhm.
bit. But after she was cremated, I ended up taking her ashes home with me, and I kept them for a while. And I just earlier this year just gave them back to her mom. But that helped me because I would just have my conversations with her. I would talk to
Mhm.
her, and I was like, if somebody come in here, they gonna think I'm a fool. But you know, keeping that line of, I always tell people the body is dead, but the soul is still there.
Right.
And if I would lose something in the house, I'd be like, okay, Shinda, where my comb? Or what you saw I put that paper right there. What you do with it? I would do stuff like that to kind of help me get over it. And with my best friend, I'm so thankful to his mom that she was so gracious to give me a part of his ashes. So I have a area in my home that's set up for him, and I have things on his, I guess, altar, you could call it, that remind me of him. He was a world traveler. So I have like a globe. He was
Mhm.
a praying man. He believed he was, baby, when he was, I say, sold out for Jesus, he was sold out. So I have this metal um, trinket that's kind of shaped like a man that's on his knees praying. So just those little things. To honor him, Vegas was the last place that we actually got a chance to go. So Vegas
Uh-huh.
is my city, and the year, it was about a couple of weeks after the funeral, Ree had his birthday party in Vegas, and it
Mhm.
just so happened to be at the same hotel that he loved to stay in, which was in the.
Wow.
And so when I went, it was just it was just so many things that just happened that allowed me to be there. But the whole time I was fighting tears because I felt like I needed to go to honor him. So that Vegas will be a yearly trip for me, even
Yeah.
if I go by myself, just to honor him. Back in the day when we worked at Singular, so that you know how long ago that's been, Singular Wireless,
Long
together
time.
in the call center. We thought we was highfalutin. So when we would get paid, payday, we going to Red Lobster. So, and so now to honor him, if I have it on my heart, I'll just go and order what he would order all the time, and have that, even if I don't eat it or drink, because he like Arnold Palmer. I don't like tea that
Mhm.
well, so even if I just order it to look at it, I do that to honor. So it's so many different ways that you can honor. So it's just about honoring them and how they lived, and just do things that remind you of them to keep their memory alive. And just because I know both of them, Shinda and Myron, would want me to live on, and do the things that I've been called to do. So sometimes when I'm thinking about him, I can happen to look at my phone or the date on the calendar, and it'll say
Mhm.
11/16, which is his birthday. So he reminds me that he's always with me. So those
Wow.
help as I navigate and help other people go through the same thing. And I think, because even though I'm like, now Lord, I can't take too much more. My heart is feeble right now. I believe that all of my experiences with grief has helped me be able to help somebody else, and that's what
Right.
what it's all about. Because I could easily be like, I can't do this no more. I
Right.
give it all up. But when I think about it, it's so important because, especially in our community, as you were saying about the Braxtons, we don't know how to grieve.
No.
We've been told, and I think with them having to be the strong women all the time, you forget how to just be soft and just, laying your femininity in a so to speak. So it's just helping other people get to their grief. It really brings me joy. So that's part of it. So yeah.
You got some questions?
Okay.
Tell them about the cost of the casket spray.
Okay, well, it depends. Usually,
I done found ways around that now.
Yeah.
100 flowers.
Yeah, and if you can outsource, that's fine. Because sometimes family tell us, well, we do our own flowers. That's fine, or we do our own programs. That's fine too. Whatever helps your family. Because, like I said, we have sometimes have a bad rep because of one or two bad apples about being money hungry and things of that nature. But if there's anything that you want to do that's going to help the cost, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But usually, on average, a three-piece, which is two stands, is the flower that's at the head and at the foot of the casket, and the casket spray. You could get anywhere between 275 to 375 for all three pieces, just depending on who you outsource it with.
$275.
Hmm.
Oh, I thought you was gonna say more than that.
No, no, but then does depend on the size. It depends on what type of flower. Of course, roses are going to be more expensive. You have, and it also depends on the type of casket. A lot of times you see the half couch with
You
just
ain't paying that for a mammoth.
no, you
Say
ain't
you
paying
that.
that. But you have those caskets that's just what we call a half couch, where the front top that's just open, or you
Mhm.
have what we call a full couch and the full lid. But if you have a full couch, you don't want a small spray on
Right. I
that.
was about to say make sure it's the right
Yeah.
size.
So
Cause
it just
it
depends on the size of the casket and what you're looking for, what type of flowers. So yeah.
okay, another question. Is it true that you can hear the last breath of the deceased at the funeral home? Some people describe it as a soft sigh at the funeral home. They already be done had their last breath by the time y'all get them, don't
Sometimes, but like I said, in the natural decomposing process, there's just some gas that may be in the belly cavity, and you may hear it escape. But once they're embalmed, usually you don't hear anything like that. But it does sound like a sigh, and it usually depends because I've had on the embalmers that I've assisted, they were came from right from the accident scene straight to the funeral home. So if they
Mm.
with them being quote unquote fresh like that, yes, you may hear something, but usually, like I said, if they are coming from the crime lab or the hospital, something like that, most of the time that part has already been done. Yeah.
Have you experienced like bearing a child?
Yes. Mhm.
What's the youngest child you've buried?
A day old.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's hard.
But for me, the hardest ones are kids who are either at the age of my daughter or younger. Now I'll tell you,
Mm.
even this year, I've buried enough teenagers. I for the rest of my life. Um, and it's just
That
with
is so when I was growing up, that was uncommon.
hmm hmm but
Well, I
now,
take that back. Like during prom weekend, somebody
hmm
would lose their life with a
hmm
car accident.
yeah, yeah,
But typically, no.
yeah, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of teenage murders, and the you know perpetrators of murders, and my heart aches for the youth of today. It's like that's the first and last resort that they go to is gun violence. So um that could be really tough. That could be really tough, and we've had situations where things get heated even at a wake or something for somebody else. Other people get into it, so it happens. It's unfortunate, but I would like to see a change in our community when it comes to teenage violence.
And that was a question. How do you handle folks that cut up at the funeral? Do you expect the family to handle it or do you all have to intervene?
Our number one priority is that box and the person who is in it.
Oh,
You got somebody now, depending on how many staff I have working on that particular service, we may be able to help. A lot of times, if it's at a church, the ushers will intervene or family. Um, but like I said, my priority is the box first. I want to protect and make sure we don't have an incident where they knock the casket over. I will tell you because I've seen this. If your family member tells you that they do not want a view, do not egg them on.
I have seen people
They
make people view
understand that they
and it
cannot.
yeah.
This one lady, and how I present the bodies, I do raise them enough that if you're seated, you can still see them. And she kept telling, I don't know what relation she was to her. She kept telling her, no, I can see him. I'm fine. Right. And she was seated. And they kept on and kept on. So finally, she gave them what they wanted. She came up there. And before I could get it, because I saw the change in her eyes, before I could even get it out, she hit the floor. And it was nothing any of us could, because like I said, I stepped right to the casket to make sure she didn't knock it over. And that could have been avoided. If they are telling you that they can't do it, don't force them to do it. And if they feel like later, that they can do it, that's fine. We'll wait on them. I'm going to give you your time because this is your family member. This is the last time you're ever going to see them. So I don't want to rush that moment.
Right.
But people know themselves, and
Right.
if they tell you they can't do it, just don't force them to do it. So you always have that one busybody aunt that's forcing everybody to get up there, and it's like, no, if they tell you that they cannot do it, don't force them to do it, because you might have a situation like that.
Right. Now you got to have the ambulance come out to the funeral because
Yeah,
now
they had
somebody
to
done
come
passed out.
or you trying to have, the family members come and try to pick them up, and it gets to be a lot. So
A lot of drama.
now, personally, I'm gonna tell you, I love a good carrying on.
You want them to fall out.
I love me a good carrying on now. Yes, because I feel like, especially if they are, in church and we have a church, sit them on out right now, And I tell my family, look, don't get in my funeral and be quiet. I want you falling out, rolling around on the floor. Tell them, show them that you love me, But I love a good carrying on. But for the most part, we've had some incidents where you have this brother into it with this brother or things of that nature. Most of the time, I'm gonna just tell you, I don't want to be in the family car, because a lot of times that's where it starts. It put
and
me in
them
a hurt.
remarks. It
Yeah.
start with them remarks too. My name
So
ain't on the
the way
program,
to get
but
away
I'm gonna
that
say this.
the way to get around that, if you want remarks at a service, put on the order of service who it is, and that's it.
Right.
Don't open it, say 5 people. You name those 5. If it's from a grandchild, if it's from a sibling, if it's from a parent, whatever the case may be, name them, give them the 2-minute time limit, and be done with it. Or if you decide to have a wake, write it down. And I'm gonna tell you for real, because when people don't write it down and they get up there and start talking, a whole bunch of family business that we don't need to know starts coming out. So yes, write it down and have a decent tribute. But also, to get away around that, if you have a wake, let them talk then. And then on the service, there should be no more talking. And speaking of the service, I'm gonna put this one in here too, and I know people might get mad with me when I say
put a pin in it. Let's go.
Put a pin in it. A eulogy is not a sermon.
It's not. What is it?
Is not a sermon. The literal word means to speak well of someone. So, with that being said, if their pastor is speaking over them, that's one thing. But we have had instances where you have that associate minister. They know they probably never gonna preach again to this size of a crowd, so they gonna get up there and give a whole dissertation because they want to try this sermon out to see how it goes. That is not the time.
Wrong time.
And it makes the family very antsy because they already anticipating the viewing part of it. So also, a preacher does not have to do the eulogy. Stop asking preachers to do eulogies when they do not know
somebody that know the person. Yeah,
you need someone. Do it yourself. If you know them, do it yourself. Or if you choose a preacher and they don't, in the common days before the service, they don't come around the family. They don't ask any questions about that person. They don't sit around the family to listen to the stories about that person. Don't put. It irritates me because, like I said,
it would be awkward to me to even do that.
Yeah, and now there's some preachers that will say, if I don't know them, I will go to the family house and sit with them and pray with them and learn about that person. And you can kind of finagle a good eulogy in that particular circumstance. But that's good, Tamara. Hit the recorder and speak of yourself
You gonna
and do
tear
it.
people up. They hear your voice, they gonna be crying.
Yeah, yeah.
I would
But
I would definitely cry if that happened.
because I've seen horror stories where preachers get up there and they are mad at the family for this or that or whatever the case may be, and they take it to a whole nother level, and the sermon never ends up about that person.
Wow, that's
And
true.
it is like, who are we funeralizing? Are we funeralizing Jesus, or are we funeralizing the person that's in the box? Jesus is yet alive, as most, well, God is alive. So why are we, eulogizing him when we should be eulogizing the person in the casket? And a lot of
Um,
people, they don't know that, they don't understand it.
yeah.
But a eulogy is not a sermon.
And I'm gonna tell you this. At my funeral, if that choir ain't right,
Ooh,
don't get in that choir stand. I cannot stand a piece of choir at a
well, here you
funeral.
go. If it's just a piece of choir, I will get up in the choir stand. I will, and I
Okay,
have.
great. Please.
If they need a director, I'll get up there and direct. Whatever, I will go
Much as
above. If
I love choir music, you better get out of
because
here.
I mean, most they're gonna sing some of the same songs. Most choir songs. Or if they don't have anybody on program to pray, if they don't have anybody that will do words of
You
whatever the
have to
case
fill
may be,
in. You have
I
to
will.
fill
I
in
will
on
step in.
everything.
I will step in. I won't leave them hanging. But yeah, me and my coworker Kanisha, it's been times we just got in that choir stand. It was like, we're gonna help you. So
I
I'm
don't
not
think
a
I
bus.
could, listening to you talk, I don't think I could be a funeral director because it depends on how the family, their attitude is. Because I can be really petty.
There are
And
some.
if you don't have your stuff together, you can looking at me, I'm gonna look at you.
There are some, honey. There was one I had to stay on her. I'm like, baby, listen, time is of the essence, and that's what writing it down is so important because we're on deadlines. We have to get the information to the newspaper by a certain time. We have to get things to the printer by a certain time. Once we get it back, we send it to you. You have to proofread it. We need it within an hour or two. You can't delay it because you'll mess around and won't
And you
have
gotta
anything.
get to the cemetery on time too, don't you?
Yes, some cemeteries you have to get there on time. On time, especially on weekend. If you late, it could be another charge, and that's something that we can't control because they set their time. So,
So
but yeah,
all y'all going over your time on these funerals, y'all costing these families money.
and a lot of times, again, it goes back to them making a eulogy into a sermon, and it's
Mhm.
just this. But we'll, especially if we have more than one service that day, we'll set the expectation of the preacher. Like, look, you're in charge of the service as far as the eulogy and stuff is concerned. But listen, we want to make sure we give this family ample amount of time to view their loved one, do
Mhm.
whatever they need to do. Please keep it 10 minutes is really all you need. That's it.
Right.
10 minutes is all
10
you need.
minutes.
That's it. Because anything after that, like I said, you start is anxiety.
Because
You
it's
can
not
feel.
even the preacher alone, too. I'm sorry, cut y'all. It's the people that's doing the scripture
Mm-hmm.
and the New Testament, the Old Testament. Everybody want to preach a sermon
Everybody want to preach
and
the
sing a
sermon.
song.
Just get up there and do what you asked to do, and then sit down. And it's like those things. But yeah, you can cost the family more money. So,
4 hours. Wow. That's a long time.
ooh, yeah, that is a very long time to sit, and you have to think about the children that are there. I was at one, and he was being petty. He saw us stand up because when I stand up, that means yeah,
It's
you
over.
done had one too many closings. It's time to end it. And children are starting to get up to use the restroom and things because they've held it as long as they could. And now you have all of this walking, which could have been avoided if you
Hmm.
had cut the sermon off 30 minutes ago.
Right.
So it's just things of that nature. It's everything that we do, we have to do it with the family in mind. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And I don't care what so and so may think about it. If my thing is the family, I want
Right.
them to be satisfied. I want them to feel like they did get their money's worth. I want them to know when they view their loved one that they're not looking at a horror story. So all of my energy goes into there, and yeah, it's just really about respecting the family and their time.
Yeah, I get that. And also too, I want to ask, when it comes to, oh, it left me. Okay. When it comes to like, um, gosh, that question was right there. It got away from me. It'll come back to me. What advice would you give to someone considering a career in funeral service?
Uh, what are your reasons?
Oh,
Why do you want to do it?
because it
Um,
can't be just money.
it cannot be just money because you are dealing with people at their most vulnerable time in their life. And a lot of times you have to be that shoulder when they cry. You have to step in, and like I said, if you don't have compassion, if you don't like people, if you can't get along with people, if you can't separate the fact that it's probably not them talking, it's probably the grief talking, it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be the 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 service for you or the industry for you. If you are if you're afraid, I mean, there are some people that still have a little bit of fear. They don't want you jumping out at them or whatever, but you can't be afraid. um when you're dealing with even the deceased, even though they can't speak back, I always put myself in the mindset that this could be my grandmother, this could be my dad, and
Mm-hmm.
it's always Mr. Brown or Miss Brown. I'm combing your hair. I'm about to do your makeup now. We're gonna have you looking good, girl. Just doing those type of things. You have to put yourself in a position like, how would I feel if this was my loved one? How would I want
Mm-hmm.
them to treat my loved one? So you have to be sure that it is, and I don't like to say a calling all the time, but I really felt led to that, like I said, because of all the things that I went through in my life that kind of put me in a position to be able to sympathize and empathize with people in that area. But if you want to do it, especially women, like I said, get out there and do it. Research, see what the requirements are for your particular state, and do it. Just do it. Get a good relationship with the local funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's hard to penetrate that seal, especially with family owned funeral homes and stuff like that, because they do like to keep it in. Some of them like to keep it in the family, but
Mm-hmm.
just go around and develop relationships with funeral directors. Get a mentor that will help and guide you through it. Because it's not easy. It's not. There have been times that I've been called, right out of my sleep, and I like to sleep. When I'm
Mm.
asleep, I don't want to be bothered, and I had to get get out of that, putting my phone in do not disturb. Funeral directors don't have their phone in do not disturb because
Wow.
we have to be available 24 hours a day, and I do take vacations, and I let people know, and have people in place, but for the most part, we are always on call. Always
Wow.
on call. Yeah. So.
Wow. Um, do you have like this is what I want to know this because it's hard to find grief counselors.
Hmm.
Do you have like uh some type of do grief counselors come by and give you their information for the
Hmm.
families, or do they just, I mean, because I've yet to
Yeah.
find one.
So final. That we
And
do.
it's like they're hiding, like they don't want to be found.
Yeah, we do. We have some that are local that come, but a good place to start is, I think it's psychology.com,
Uh-huh.
and look and filter out those who are experts in grief counseling.
Hmm.
That's a good way to vet and get someone. But yeah, there are some people who specialize in it. There's one, she's a younger lady, but she is in Georgia. Her name is Michaela Hudson. She
Hmm.
offers counseling and virtual counseling services as
Okay.
well. So she's really good. Um,
Michaela Johnson.
Hudson.
Hudson. Michaela
Hmm.
Hudson. Let me
Uh
write it
huh.
down.
Uh huh. Michaela Hudson. She's really sweet. Follow her on TikTok. I follow her on Facebook. But matter of fact, she's having a conference in Albany, Georgia, I believe, in
Hmm.
December. So Tears and Tea, I think may be the name of it. I may try to plan to go to that as well. But she's really good. She gives a lot of tidbits of how to get through
Mm-hmm.
um, grief on TikTok. And but the main thing, I'm not a grief counselor, but I just from experience, and I had to learn this myself. You have to go through every stage. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot skip a stage, and you can't be taken aback if you repeat a stage, because
Yep.
there was a time where with losing uh, Myron, I was angry. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about pissed off at God, because I'm like, why him? Why now? We had all of these. Hey, Nisha, we had all of these plans. This was my safe space. If I could talk to my mama, I could talk to him. It's just all these things. And I thought, okay, I told him how I felt, prayed about it, and I'm like, okay, I'm cool.
Mm-hmm.
But about 6 months later, it hit me again. And I just cried out, like, God, I
Mm-hmm.
am so angry at you. Like, why would you do this? Of
Right.
all people, you got people doing this and doing that and creating hell for everybody else. He was a good person. Why now? You know what I'm saying? He
Right.
was
Right.
just he was only 47. We had
Mm.
all these plans that we were going to do. Why would you do that? So it's important that you know that every stage is important. Every stage has to be done for your healing. Grief is perpetual. It's not something you just gonna be over.
Right.
You're not. Some deaths you may be over. Like with my godmother, she was 98. She lived a life. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that it was necessarily easier to lose her, but it's not as tough because I just talking with her, she was ready.
Right.
She had
Right.
lived her life. She had done everything she was supposed to do. So that one was a little easier to let her go. But when it comes to, my best friend, like what in
Right.
the world? So you have to be and you have to feel those feelings. And I think that's kind of what the Braxtons are not doing. They don't want to feel
No.
it, but you have to. Because if you don't, it
Listen.
will manifest in so many different ways. It could cause depression. It could cause manic episodes. For me, I'm preaching to the choir because there's some instances where I didn't do as well. You will lose yourself. You won't even
You
recognize
will.
yourself in the mirror. And with me, it manifests in my weight. So I'm getting back to me and learning how to go through it,
Right.
because I'm the type that I can compartmentalize and I can go on, and I can keep
Mm-hmm.
going and keep going. But then when I'm at home, then it all of a sudden hit me because I'll see something on the news, and the first thing I do is pick up my phone. Even now, it's been since January of 2023. I pick up my phone to call him, and it's like,
Mm.
or text him, and then I realize, and so I'll come in the living room and I'll sit in front of the urn, and I just talk to him and stuff. So it can happen, but the biggest thing with grief is just confronting your feelings, because if
Yes,
you don't, it will take a major toll on you.
it will.
It
And
will.
I noticed, I know y'all hear me talk about the death of my parents a
Hmm.
lot, my mother in particular. And I think I grieved her differently,
Hmm.
harder, because it was a relationship that I really wanted.
Yes.
I wanted it to be better. And it was getting better. And while it was getting better, she passed.
Yeah.
And I was taking care of her and stuff like that at the end. Of course, my brother, he was closer to her. My
Hmm.
job let me take 90 days to move to where she was to help take care of her.
Hmm.
So in those 90 days, it was like me and my mama. Like, and I never thought that would have been the case.
Right.
And so my brother, she wanted to be out of the nursing home and she wanted to go back home. My brother
Hmm.
was like, no, don't do it. And so, but I knew that's what she wanted.
You
She
want
at
it,
that
yeah.
time she was mobile, whatever like that. I was like, Mama, you want to get out of the nursing home? She was like, yeah. I said, okay, I'm gonna get you out of the nursing home.
Right.
So I got her out. But when I got her out, she had a fainting spell and broke her ankle.
Oh my, Jesus.
And because she was heavy set at the time. So my mama was a strong woman. We didn't know that she broke her ankle at the time. So when I took her to the emergency room, she had walked on it and everything. When we got there, they said her ankle is broke clean.
Oh
and
my.
because she was diabetic, they couldn't operate on it, so it had to like
Right.
attach back by itself. So she sat in that chair. I was washing her, bathing, I mean, feeding her and all this kind of stuff like that. And one day I was in her room and I just broke down. I said, "Ma," I
Mhm.
said, "you're gonna have to go back because I can't take care of you like you need to be taken care of. Yeah, I can't, you're not really getting washed properly.
Mhm.
You haven't even did number two." So it was a whole lot of things. And then
Yeah.
come to find out that the nursing home didn't didn't even take her off their roster. So they still
Oh,
was getting
wow.
her money. They were still getting her money.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when we found that out, they immediately took her back because they could have got sued.
Oh, of course. Of
And
course.
so she was back. And then after that,
Yeah.
she was done. Because my mama was a nurse. After that, she was done. So I say about 3 years, her last year, she wasn't talking at all.
Mm.
And then she stopped taking her medicine. She stopped eating. And the next thing I know, my brother calling me saying, "Mama's gone." But I think when she went back, I think she was ready to go then.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like she was like, I'm
I
not
don't
going
want
through
to
this
do
no
this
more.
anymore. Yeah. And I
And
think,
so when
yeah.
she died, I was done.
And it's always a part of you that goes with them. I don't care what people
Yes.
say. It's a part of you that goes with them. Like I tell people, I love love my family that I still have. I'm thankful for them, and I'm thankful that I do have both of my parents. But there's always going to be this hole that's never going to be filled because
Never.
that space that Myra occupied, it's always going to be there. So,
Hmm.
you know, like I said, you just have to take it day by day. It's
Right.
not a blanket solution to it. And like I said, you could be fine for 5 years. It could be a smell, a sound,
Yep.
anything in it that it'll trigger
Anything.
you. Because I've had times where Myra he only used Dove soap, so I could just smell it sometimes, and
Hmm.
and it just takes me back. But now it's in more of a joyous remembrance versus I'm angry, I'm mad, and I'm sad. So grief is very sneaky, Kanisha. It's
Yep.
very, it will sneak up on you at some of the worst times. And so, sometimes even like my godfather, I lost him when I was 10 years old. And when I lost Myra, it took me all the way back to how I felt then. So I think it just
Hmm.
kind of doubled up on the grief. So yeah, grief can be very sneaky. But I say if you feel it, go through it,
Go through
fill
it.
it out. If you gotta cry, set yourself a time limit. I'm gonna cry for 15 minutes, and when I get through, I'm gonna wash my face and I'm gonna carry on about
And
the
that's
day.
very important to
Yeah,
set a timer
yeah, but
because you
don't
can
deny
go
yourself.
over you can go over into something
Yes,
else.
yes,
I
so,
I I want to say this too because who said that? They said grief doesn't care where you are either.
it doesn't.
The anniversary of when my father died, the first year he died, I was at the gas station. Wasn't even thinking about my daddy. My mama was still alive then. I went in the store. I bought some barbecue Fritos and a Coke. Those are the two items that my daddy used to buy me when my cycle would come home. He would have to pick me up from school, and
Mm-hmm.
he would give me that so that I would make me feel better and take me home. I didn't wasn't thinking about him,
Mm-hmm.
so I bought it. Went to my car. When I got in my car, I just broke down, and started crying. I was like,
Yeah,
"What is wrong
where is this
with me?
coming from? Yeah,
What is wrong with me?"
yeah.
So I called my mama, and I was like, I was just crying, "Mom, I don't know what's wrong." I just and then she just got quiet, and she was like, "Lisa," she said, "You know your daddy passed today." I was like, "No," I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even thinking about it. And so then she started talking about things that we used to do, made me laugh
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And she was like, "You just got to remember the good times." She was really good with that
Mm-hmm.
when it came. So me grieving my daddy was different. Now
Mm-hmm.
not having both of them,
Yeah, it,
that's
it
a
can be
lot.
very tough. It is a
'Cause
lot. It is a
because
lot.
all the accomplishments that that they will be proud of,
Mm-hmm.
they're not here to celebrate and all this kind of stuff. So it's a lot.
It
But
is.
I want to thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Everybody, please give Naomi a hand.
so thankful that you
we will be talking to you in times to come
yes.
because
Yes.
I have a lot of clips I can take out of this because
Okay.
it was
Okay.
really good. The information that you gave was amazing. We learned that we need to write stuff down.
Need to write it down.
We ain't getting a refund once you sign that dotted line.
Or sign the dotted line.
You're not getting no refund.
No refund.
And also I want to on that note, have you ever had somebody that just or you don't sign until you know you got the money?
No, we sign, but we let it be known at the point of signing that payment is due before service render. So if the service is on a Saturday and you're coming in Friday for that initial viewing, that's on. It's if you don't have insurance. Now, if you have insurance, we don't uh, require because we know it's coming. We use a fast funding company that handles filing the claim on the policy, and they fund us immediately. So that part, if you have insurance, you have that safety net. But
Okay.
and like there are some things that like the death certificate and stuff, we'll put it all in the service. That way you don't have to come out of pocket right then. So there's ways around it. But yes, if you don't have insurance, it is a self-pay service. Payment is due before the actual service. So, yeah.
The entire payment.
Yeah. Yeah, unless we renegotiate and say 50 or 75%, and then we come up with a promise to pay for the rest. But most of the time, it's only in extreme situations.
Oh, now I got another question.
Okay.
Okay, now I got another question. So, have you ever had? Because you know sometimes there are things going on with real estate where it's fraudulent. Have you ever had a family to put their money into an insurance where it was fraudulent? They thought they had insurance and they didn't.
Not fraudulent, but I've had some that thought their mom or whoever the deceased person was had insurance policy and it may have lapsed. So they went and found documents thinking that they had insurance, but once we contact the insurance company, they say no, it lapsed 2 years ago or whatever the case may be. So yeah.
Okay, that's another thing, y'all. Make sure the insurance is current.
It's good. Yes.
My God, I'm glad I asked that. Yes. Make sure your insurance is current. Daryl is playing. How much I need to save for my mammoth again? A lot of money.
$5,000. No, I don't know. Things change. Like I said, when I first started, the national average was about 6,000. When I first became interested in this business, let me say it that way. Now it's 9, and of course, that's you have some that's below and you have some that's high. Like I said at the beginning, you are in control of how much you spend. And don't let anybody ever tell you that you're not. Yes, you are. If you want to have a big extravagant funeral, just know you have to pay for it because at the end of the day, it is a business. We do provide a service. And like I said, it is one of the worst times in people's lives. However, it's still a business. So we still have to make good on that. So
y'all are funny. That mammoth had us in a chokehold.
In a good chokehold.
But thank you, Naomi. Again, I'm not gonna go back. And thank you so much. All right, y'all. There you have it. We had a licensed funeral director on, a female, Black female at that. And we are so glad that she stopped by to give us all these nuggets. I'm gonna try to cut it up so that you can be able to just get the nuggets. I'm gonna make a clip about the mammoth. I am gonna do that because that was funny. But we had a great time. Now join me on Thursday. I'm gonna say Thursday or Friday. It's probably gonna be Friday. Join me on Friday. I'm gonna go deep into the Braxton family values. That'll give me a chance to look at another episode so it don't look like I'm jumping the gun on what I think. So I'm gonna watch another episode first. Then I'm gonna go live Friday and talk about it. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go out with y'all looking at my song.
Put a pin in it, put a